I want to let everyone know that today we're going to run about 30 minutes. We're going to go through a little bit of a conversation about what differences is, what the value is, and then we're actually going to dig into some dashboards together, and we'll wrap up with the Q&A period as well. So if you've attended one of our master classes before, we do have a couple hashtags for social media. If you want to tweet or if you want to put things on LinkedIn, our hashtags are hashtag TE and hashtag TE Masterclass. And my name is Tila Beischer. So for those of you who I haven't met before, so lovely to meet you. I'm a customer success manager here at Thoughtexchange. So I really work with our thought partners in a product onboarding specialty. And so I help them learn how to use the product, all the different nuances. So thinking about differences, how is that valuable for your use case? So I'm going to bring that information to you today. And then we also have a really robust community as well. So lots of virtual events, opportunities to connect with other thought partners, other leaders. We have a really robust help site with video tutorials. We have in-app support too, so you can click on that question mark whenever you're actually in Thoughtexchange and pull up help articles too. And you'll also have your dedicated Thoughtexchange team. So differences. If you are here, I'm imagining that you've worked with this tool a little bit or you haven't worked with it at all. What it is it's a tool in your Discover dashboard that really helps you to understand polarities and disagreement, as well as areas of agreement within your exchange. And so what it does for you and what we're going to talk about today is really what is it and why would you want to use it? So what's the value in using it? There are a couple ways that you can use survey questions really strategically to glean some additional insight from differences. And then I want to walk you through a couple different variances of differences that you could see in some sample dashboards. So thinking about what is differences, it's a visual breakdown of areas of polarity in your exchange. And so while it's called differences, it's showing you groups of people who disagree on a topic. There's also an area that you'll see once we open up the dashboard of common thoughts or common agreement. So it's showing you where people who disagree in some areas actually come together and agree. And what's really interesting about differences is that the content of the thoughts in the exchange often mirrors the known dynamics in the organization or your school community, depending if you're corporate or education. And so differences really allows you to highlight dynamics that you're already aware of, bring them into the open so that you can address them. And we'll dig into that again once we get into the dashboard. But I wanted to show you this word cloud. We ran an exchange with our customer success team asking what do they think differences is valuable. And these are some of the words that really came up or stood out for them. So it's showing you quick ways to get agreement, showing you common areas of agreement or disagreement, it's showing polarization, and it's emphasizing the importance of the value of rating. And here are a few of those thoughts about why differences is valuable or how you can really get the most from it. And this exchange added a lot of insight, so I wanted to share it with you. So the first thought was that I like focusing on common ground in divisive or polarizing issues or topics. Think about something like a return to work exchange. I'm imagining that you all had a variety of stakeholders who maybe had opposing ideas. Maybe some were really pro for returning to work and some were more hesitant. Differences would allow you to see what are those actual hesitations and how are those groups composed. The common ratings high really shows you your quick wins. So remember, we're going to dig into that, but common ratings high show you areas where people have come together to agree on a specific set of topics. A really good example of that we're seeing quite often is in those return to the classroom exchanges or back to school exchanges, we're seeing some people say we really want to go back to the classroom. Some people say we're not ready to go back. And in the very middle, in that common ratings high, we're seeing where there's overlap. So where do those groups come together? And oftentimes it's saying something like, we want our students to be safe. We want to make sure that we have lots of sanitation. And so where are those areas that you can pull on threads to show them kind of the needs within the needs, essentially. The other thing that's really valuable about differences is because this tool is showing you two sets of thoughts that people rated really highly and rated really lowly, it's showing thoughts that end up with an average star score. And by that, I mean that it's not going to all be a 5 because some people rated it as a 1, and so it balances out. Maybe these thoughts are rated about a 2.5 or a 3. They don't show up really high in your list of top thoughts, but they are really important because people were really engaged with them. And so spending time in differences and getting to understand really what's in there and what are the thoughts that are showing up shows another aspect of the exchange and shows something that would be missed if you just looked at top thoughts and just looked at top themes. It's that these thoughts have a lot of value and people really cared about them. They're really passionate about them. Another thing here, another thought that you can think about for why you'll want to be using differences is that it's a really quick way to identify distinct schools of thought within your exchange. And so the AI is showing you the different rating patterns, and you can see the agreement and the disagreement. And so you can start to see maybe my organization is split and I have some people that think this and some people that think this. What are the communications efforts that I need to do to address both of those polarities to bring them together and keep them connected? And so the way that participants rate really gives you more insight into the sentiment and agreement on the topic beyond just the top thoughts. So I'm really going to encourage you to be using differences to be thinking about, and what else? What other conversations can we have too? All right, and then I did mention at the start that you can use survey questions to pull more out of differences. If you've asked a survey question in your exchange, you can have the extra option to explore these in differences. And so you can see on this slide here a couple survey questions that was asked in this demo exchange. And we can see of the survey question responses, we can see side A was composed mainly of this and side B was composed mainly of this. You can start to get a sense of who informs those different groups. So who are the stakeholders in group A who agree on one thing? Who are the stakeholders in group B who agree on a different thing? I'm going to circle back to that return to school exchange example that we talked about on the last slide. And maybe what you're going to see is that parents are all in group A and staff are all in group B. Or maybe you're going to see that the percentages are the same for both groups. And that means that no group is over or underrepresented too. And this can really help to guide your action or your communication plan after the exchange. You can highlight specific groups that might benefit from tailored communication. So imagine that we did see that example of all the parents being on side A. You would know, parents, this is what you said was important in the exchange, and we're going to respond to that. We're going to build an FAQ. We're going to host a town hall, talk through what came up so that you feel heard and listened to. All right, so let's actually hop in now to a exchange, to a dashboard, and I want to walk you through 3 different variances of what you'll see in differences. And so this is a sample one. This is from our demo account here. So we can see we have a lot of different options here for how you understand the information. So I'm in differences here. Get to it just by clicking on the blue differences tab in the Discover dashboard. And what I want to point out first at the top is this area here, difference, 9 differences found. Because participants interact with different thoughts and they all see different sets of thoughts because of those AI algorithms that are running to shuffle them for them, the program is going to actually find different groups of differences for you. So difference 1, these are people who all interacted with the same set of thoughts. These people interacted with a different set of thoughts, and so on. So you might want to spend some time in the larger groups or in the ones up at the top here. And there's always valuable information to be drawn below as well. And what we see here in the middle is actually a Venn diagram. This is going to be a visual representation for you if you're ever needing to explain what differences is. We have a group of stakeholders here. We have 391 people that all rated the thoughts on the left under side A really highly. So they thought that these were important thoughts. And then we have this different group of people over here in side B, and they rated all of the thoughts in side B really highly. And here's where the 2 sets interact. Side B, so this little green circle here of 214 people, all rated these thoughts on the left really low. So they disagreed with them. So what we're looking at side A, this is a set of thoughts that one group rated really highly, and that group is the 391 participants in the blue area of our Venn diagram. And then side A is also the same set of thoughts that another group, which is this group here, so side B, the green, the 214 people, they rated these really lowly. And so this is an exchange where we're looking at what are we doing well and where can we improve? And this is an education example. And so you can see over here on side A, we're talking about things like subject matter. We're talking about things like traditional values. And then over here, we're talking about things like graduation rates, communication, having less homework. And down here in the middle, we can see that although we have these groups that disagree, we have area here where they come together, and that's this little overlap in the Venn diagram. This is where they did agree. So they rated this set of thoughts high, all of them. And you could think of this as, if you're looking at this exchange and you're wanting to create some action out of it, you're wanting to have some quick wins, some low-hanging fruit, these are those things that you could do to action upon that would satisfy a really wide variety of people. And these can also be a really strong place to demonstrate listening. We heard from you that class size is important. We saw in the exchange that there was a lot of contention around things like communication, around subject matter for teaching. But what we did hear where people came together was on class size. And so you can use that to really build your narrative, to be really thinking strongly about how do I communicate in a way that brings these different groups together. The other thing that you're going to have here down at the bottom is side AB common low. And these are thoughts that both of the groups rated really low as well. So things like, I do like the ability, you can see that that may have just been a bit of a nonsense thought. People rated it really low. So these are things that both groups think are not important as well. So that is a really good example of differences showing you how that they are when they're really robust. And what you could do is you could dig through these two. We can look at difference too. We can see that we have side A talking about discipline. Over here, we have someone who says that discipline's working well. The other thing that I want to point out to you here on this page is this show more button. And this is where you can start to get an understanding of the survey questions. So if I wanted to see who is side A and who is side B, side A is 33% teachers and certificated staff, and 18% parents, whereas side B is 37% teachers and 17% parents. So we're not seeing a huge disparity in who composes the groups. And I could think of that as a good representation of that I don't need to do particular communication to parents or to teachers. My communication can encompass both of them because this is showing me that they're both agreeing with this too, or that they're both being represented in an equal way. So that's how you can glean information from that. Great. And then we're just going to look at difference 1 here too, so you can get a sense of that survey question. I'll click on show more. And here we have a little bit of differentiation. So side A was talking about subject matters, whereas side B was talking more about communication. And you can see here that we have more students in side A than we do have in side B. So 19% students thought that subject matter was really important, whereas only 7% of students thought that talking about district communication was really important. And that does start to really show you what are the priorities for your different groups of stakeholders too. All right, so that's the first example of differences. This is what you're going to see if you have a lot of rating in your exchange and it's a higher volume. If you have a slightly smaller exchange, you might see something more like this. And this is a difference with only one side. Notice that we only have the left column here and there's nothing inside B. So what this is telling me is that I do have my groups. I have my side A, so people who rated thoughts high. Side B rated the same set of thoughts low, but side B wasn't rating anything really highly that side A was rating low. So we didn't have that inverse relationship happening. And in this case, what I can think of is that side B didn't highly agree on anything that side that side A disagreed on. And that can be really powerful for you to understand, because now you know that this is your set to action upon with the disagreement. And if I look here into my show more, what I can see are a couple different of opportunities for who composes those groups. And so you can see here we have the opportunity to getting together regularly every day with something that people were disagreeing about, how often to do town halls, what does communication look like, and then the area where people came together in this exchange, thinking about what are the important things that we can do to stay connected as we work through COVID-19, was thinking about people first, accepting small wins, being patient, kind, and compassionate, and continuing to be transparent with each other as much as possible. And so although they had some disagreement over the logistics of meeting, the kind of the why behind meeting, they did agree upon too. And so that could inform the leader of this exchange that we need to figure out maybe some variances in logistics, but we are all coming together on why we need to stay connected too. And the last one that I want to show you is an exchange here, and I'll click on differences, with no differences. And this does happen sometimes. If the differences tab on your exchange is empty, that means that the algorithm did not pick up on any starring patterns with lots of disparity, most likely because the exchange topic wasn't divisive. And you're going to see this in smaller exchanges quite often. For example, this is that exchange that we were highlighting when we went through the slide deck of what are the most impactful ways to talk about differences. And so you can see we only have about 4 thoughts here. And so if I look at differences, that's not enough thoughts for it to give me a robust understanding. So if understanding polarities is really important to you, being really firm in your communications planning in order to get enough participation will help to drive that. So the more participation that you have, the more rating that you have, the more information that you're going to get here. Okay, so those are all the details for differences today. What we're going to do now is move into a quick Q&A exchange, and then we can use any of these dashboards as an example to answer any of your more technical questions. So I'm going to create a quick exchange for today. I'm going to use the exchange gallery because if you haven't seen it yet, I want you to see it here. This is basically a template for you for different exchanges that you can run. And so we just did a presentation. What thoughts and questions do you have for our presenters? I'm choosing from this topic. I'm going to choose this question. I click Create Exchange, and it launches it for me. So that's how quick that you could use that too. And then we're going to move to present mode here. If you haven't seen presenter mode, this is an opportunity to run an exchange live. So you can embed this in your virtual meetings, in your virtual events. You could do exactly what we're doing right here. The end of a presentation, hop in and create that exchange, then click on present here. And it opens up a slide with a QR code, and then I can actually grab the link from the chat here. So we are going to spend 4 minutes participating. If we don't need all 4 minutes, we can shorten the time, but I want to offer it for you. There is the link to the chat, to the exchange, or you can use the QR code. Pressing play on our 4 minutes. So ask your questions or share your thoughts about differences. If you have a really specific question, let us know. There's not a ton of us on the call today, so we should all have the opportunity to all share one thought and then rate all the thoughts that pop up in the exchange. And I am going to mute myself to allow you to do that in quiet. All right, so let's move into our Discover view and talk through the different questions that you came up with. So up at the top, we have, how do you handle differences real time? Seems to me this could be challenging given there is no time to review or plan to handle, etc. Yeah, so differences will shift while your exchange is live. So you might want to wait until the exchange is closed to do your analysis on it and to really understand it. And I agree with you that differences can be challenging because you're not sure what it's going to be. So the time to review and the planning, you'll need to build that into your Discover strategy. So Make sure that you build the time in at the end of the exchange to really spend time to understand those results and to think about actioning them as well. And you can think about too, thinking about planning how to handle it is, as an exchange leader, you likely have a really good sense in your gut about what might come up in the exchange. If you're running an exchange about a really hot topic, maybe you've recently changed a policy and you have a general understanding that you're running the exchange because there's some confusion around it. Maybe you know that you're going to need to spend more time in differences. Whereas if you're running an exchange about something like, what are the things that we appreciate about working from home? You might not need to spend as much time in differences. And so really be thinking about how hot topic is this issue? How much time do I need to spend here? The value of investing that time is, again, having a more intimate understanding of the results beyond just the top thoughts or the top themes. It's showing you where that passion was and where those areas where people are really focused on. Perfect. The next question here is, can you explain the different groups who have differences in more detail? Not clear on them. Absolutely. So let's hop back into the dashboard and talk through those different groups again. Perfect. So up here, we have our groups of differences, essentially. And if you think about how your participants rate thoughts in the exchange, they all see thoughts in a different way, or they see a different set of thoughts because thoughts are shuffled for them. So there's two algorithms that are shuffling thoughts, and those are to see thoughts from a variety of times within the exchange, so not just linear, and also a variety of topics. So they're not just seeing thoughts all about the same thing, it's trying to shuffle and expose them to some broader learnings and broader needs there. And so what we're seeing here are these groups that actually ended up seeing the same thoughts. And what you could think of this as, here we have 391 plus 214 people. All of these people interacted with the same set of thoughts because of the way the algorithm showed them the thoughts. These are all of the different thoughts, and the visual representation is how they interacted with it. So side A is a group of people who all rated these thoughts on the left really highly, whereas side B is a different group of people who all rated these thoughts on the left really lowly. And that's showing you the polarity here, whereas the inverse is true of side B. So they all saw these same thoughts here on the right. They rated them really highly, whereas this group, our blue group, rated them really lowly. And then again, in the middle, these are more thoughts that the same two groups interacted with, but here they rated and they agreed upon them highly together. And so that's how the algorithm really informs the composition of the groups. Because there are different sets of people who see different sets of thoughts, you're going to see different differences groups pop up. And so that's why here we have 9. It was a really large exchange, which meant that a lot of different people interacted with a lot of different thoughts. So I could glean a lot of different information here. You can think about, as you're getting used to differences, start looking through difference 1 and difference 2. Those are going to be your largest groups, your highest volume, so you know where to start as well. Perfect. I hope that that addressed the question there. Are there more visual tools to represent differences? Just the Venn diagram right now for tools to represent differences. So just the one screen that we were looking at. We also have what information is available on the different groups. So I'm just going to refresh here. My computer froze a little bit. There we go. So what information is available on the different groups? Can we do cross tabs with other data? So what you can do is you can start to really dig into who composes the different groups with the survey questions. So you can understand what is group A, what is group B, and then start to glean some insight there. What I'll have you think about too is there any common story that's showing up for side A and side B? And how does knowing who that is inform your understanding of that story? Is there any common sentiment that's showing up for side A or side B, and seeing differences in the survey questions, so difference in your demographic groups? that you can see here, does that inform it more? All right, and then our last question here is, oh, that was our last question. So just 4 short thoughts, which is really wonderful. We do have 1 minute left, so if there are any more questions, feel free to add them into the chat if that digging into it a little bit more didn't answer it for you. And if not, I want to say thank you so much for attending today. I hope it was really valuable. We have a really wonderful article on our help site for differences. But if you are ever in this tab and you're not sure what you're looking at and you're wanting to understand more, if you click on this question mark icon up at the top, it opens up our help widget and you can click on differences, which has an article to walk you through exactly what you're seeing. So it'll prompt you with some questions to ask yourself. It'll tell you all the different visuals that you're seeing too. So use that as well. And there's a contact us button there too, if you have any questions. All right, and thank you so much for attending today. So that is our webinar all about differences. I hope that it was really valuable for you. Thanks again.